Greetings. You want to know Aina's past? That is Aina's business, no one else's. They were the first survivors. The first ones showed my people that to win, you must outlast. They left this world long ago to seek other survivors. But they will return, and when they do, I will join them in the Great Grove. And you will join Aina, yes? Yes. Not all beasts were born equal, survivor. The first ones look upon some captures and sacrifices more fondly than others. You may not even deem some beasts worthy of sacrifice. Do not worry. Aina has imbued some orbs with powerful blood magic. You can use these bestiary orbs on any beast in the menagerie, and the beast will be bound to the orb. Then you can do whatever you want with it. Give it to a handsome man like Aina, maybe. You cannot tell, but I am very handsome under this mask. Once a bestiary orb contains a beast, you can use it again to release the creature to the menagerie. Be careful, though. It will break the orb. Best prepare, survivor.
What?
How be you, Egg?
Hello. I greet you.
Anchoring for it. What troubles you bring now? Their skin makes good boots. Their spit makes painful death.
So an enemy of hope has fallen. Creighton will not be missed. Did you do it for a higher purpose, perhaps? Something worthy? Like peace? Every day my brethren must battle and die with Alira's thralls of the old road. To spare the lives of many, you need take only one. But if peace isn't enough reward for you, bring me the amulet that hangs around Alira's worthless neck. I trust you have Creighton's in hand already. I thought so. When joined with mine, those trinkets will forge us a new strength, you and I. The strength to bring about peace.
This land has no time for avaricious little despots like you, Oak.
king of rats, Creighton, dead. And that big, ugly oak, chopped down. You've made quite the impact around here. But I can't say I'm surprised. You've a powerful aura on you, bright as a sunset before a storm. Now, someone as resourceful as you would surely not have overlooked Oak and Creighton's amulets, the ones like mine here. There's power in those trinkets, enchantment enough to keep my friends and I safe. Give me the amulets, and I'll gladly make you part of that power. You need friends in Rayclast, and believe me, I can be a fine friend.
A valuable lesson, sister. Never let the power go to your head.
Of reckoning, find you, Doedri Stamatis, guilty of the following transgressions against God: perversion of God's creation, promotion of heretical beliefs, unlawful enslavement of eternal citizens, torture of the innocent, murder of the servants of purity. For these most severe crimes, I do sentence Doedri Darktongue to burn at the stake till naught is left but ash. May her life serve as penance for the lives she has taken, and let purity sweep away the dust of her deeds from our firmament. High Templar Vol, Commander of the Army of Purity.
Arteri, my beautiful captain. I wish it were not you, but I cannot bring myself to trust any other with this most vital of tasks. This is the only pass between the Inner and Outer Empire. No further exiles are to enter the Inner Empire. We have material enough for our work. Ensure that the barricade remains in place, and if any exile should somehow pass through, kill them. I will send for you when my work is complete in San. Until we share our next night together. Piety.
There's greatness in you. You've proved that without a doubt. And whether you've destroyed the bandits for us or for your own ends, it matters not at all. You've given us back our home and our future. You say the Lords of Larceny wore these around their necks? These artifacts and that ancient gateway to the northwest, crafted by the same hands, I'd venture. Val hands. And it appears the brigands' trinkets could form a single whole. Give me a moment with them. I used to be good at this sort of thing. Now, this one seems to fit neatly against here. And this third one, well, it looks like it... I'm so sorry, my friend. Are you well? Yes, you are apparently intact. Remarkable, considering... For the barest moment there, you were something altogether different. I'm not afraid to admit it. A rather unnerving version of yourself. If I were you, I'd dispense with that artifact down the deepest, darkest hole that I could find. That ancient gateway to the northwest. It's a peculiar thing, not of the Eternal Empire. It could be Val in origin, a culture I've seen mentioned here and there in some of the most antique of texts. It is the Val who began the use of virtue gems well before our imperial ancestors. Little else is known about them. If only I had my old museum archives, I could have given you a more tempered theory. Fare you well.
What? You are a hunter of man. Today you have hunted bandits. Tomorrow, when you are restless, will you hunt us? You should go. Find another hunting ground. Leave us in peace. Going?
Hello. The path to the sea is open. You are a legend that lives, Exile.
Hello.
Yes? Viper eats monkey, monkey eats viper. The forest is hurt, confused. It fights with itself. There is no peace for us in this war. Remember to live.
Damn me. I didn't think it possible. All these souls Mervale and her brood have consumed over the years. You've done right by those that are dead, and by those who still might live. You found a way to bring down Chevron's barricade. It's at times like these I recall I'm a man of action, not words. Should we encounter each other in the forest, the roast boar's on me, my friend. Stay sharp out there.
Quite the lady killer, aren't you? That singing squid didn't stand a chance. Knew it from the first time I saw those sharp peepers of yours. Pirates notwithstanding, I thank you on behalf of all the fallen brethren of the waves. Now that the final cadence has been played, no one need remember Mervale's song.
A stranger like no other faced the wall of the Umbra, opened a pass in a sorry land, gave some hope to a sorry band of exiles and death-soaked castaways, a chance at life on a brand new day.
There. Thought you deserved one of my finest poems, written to commemorate such a mighty feat. Oh, and this. And keeping it for a very special occasion. Consider yourself just such an occasion.
I thought you were a fool for seeking out Mervale. A fool in love with death. Now, I don't know. Still, you've delivered this coast from the terrors that long held sway here. We may now find some respite, and that's more than any of us could have hoped for. But please, consider this. What have you become when even nightmares fear you? Some have dared hope for a better life beyond Prisoner's Gate. Not me. My place is here, easing the suffering of exile as best I can. Goodbye.
is my best spear. The one I stuck in eye of old Mother Eightleg. I think you keep it now. Let the beasts and bandits fear you even more. It is my gift to you, from one hero to another. Wait, no, you need more than just spear and happy words for this great deed. You kill Mother of all Eightlegs. You need prize. Here, when I found my spear in the forest, I found these too. You will take, yes?
Piety would have concurred with Eramir's theory about that northwestern ruin. The Val were a powerful civilization predating even the Eternal Empire, and Piety very much wanted to see what toys the Val might have left for her to play with behind those stone doors. Yet we couldn't budge them, not with that giant of a tree holding them fast in her roots. You now carry a cure to that problem, or rather a useful illness. Use the spike to inject the baleful gem's calibric extantia into the roots. One day soon, Piety will find her way into that ruin. You need to get there first. Journey well.
Yes. Be kind, if you can. fascinating.
Nothing like this happens until you are here. Bring back the light, or you will find my spear in your throat. Return if... Hello. Going?
You disappear into that vile ruin, and now the sky, the light, the very land limps as a leper. Somehow, whether through deliberate act or accident, you've caused this. Now we all suffer your consequences. Different good, different bad. We now know upon which side the coin has fallen. You've put an end to old Lorata. Twisted of heart and mind were the men who made that gem and that implement of black surgery. And what of the one who chooses to wield their creations? Of course, I wish to know the secrets locked in that tomb, but not at the cost of such a grand old life. Fare you well.
What has happened? Did the world not rise from its sleep? How do we wake it up? Please, what should we do?
I dreamed this. A vast creature. A thing of shadow. I saw it escape from a black prison and climb a man-crafted mountain, drifting up its 4 sheer sides like the mist that reaches for the clouds. Gathered at the peak of that mountain and ate the heart from the sun. You smell of that black mist and something else. Guilt. That is it, yes. Guilt is a strong illness. It gnaws at the spirit until there is nothing left, until you are one of the walking corpses. You want a cure? Find the man-crafted mountain, send the shadow home, and tell the monster to take your guilt with it. Lorata is dead. It is not news to me. The forest screams its grief. You need not carry the blame. This was Lorata's will. I do not question why she allowed you to end her days. I keep her in my dreams, where she might still help us. Go with the spirit.
There's one bright spot in this darkness you've released. At least it was you who did it, and you can undo it, I know it. Had it been piety, we'd likely never see the sun again. A man-crafted mountain of 4 sheer sides. That's a pyramid. Val architecture. I've covered a lot of the countryside with piety and seen nothing like that. Still, history is in the habit of burying its dead. Perhaps you could try looking down instead of up. Farewell.
For all of her strange ways, I've learned not to discount Yena's more vivid dreams. She's in tune with this land in ways I find difficult to comprehend. As to this man-crafted mountain she describes, I have seen only one structure of its like. I stumbled across sketches in the Theopolis archives, a piece of Val engineering, pyramidal in architecture. According to those documents, the pyramid lies north of the Frisian forest, buried beneath the mantle upon which San rests. I have no idea whether it still exists, or ever existed for that matter. Still, considering the current circumstances, there isn't much to lose in the search, is there? Keep your wits about you.
hunting. We will be best friends, Beast, until we slaughter you. Slaughter you! Look upon this capture with pride, Exile. You hunt well?
Hello.
Exile. Now, it is time for Einar to go to Einar business.
troubles you bring. troubles you bring.
grateful, but we've no time for talk. Tolman was out here with me, and now Piety has him. They're headed for the crematorium. I've no chance against Piety and your blackguards, but you're another matter entirely. Please, you found it in your heart to rescue me. Tolman is just as worthy of your generosity. You're alone. So Tolman's... You didn't go to the crematorium? No, of course you didn't. This isn't your fight. I'm sorry. It was wrong of me to put that on you. To ask you to risk your life.
Mortality is the mother of life. We have turned our backs on her.
A stranger walks into a town with a lost lover in tow. Sounds like the beginning of a jest. So I bloody wish it were. Problem is, we're still one doe-eyed lover short, which ain't much good to anyone. They tend to come in pairs, you see. Since you seem to be in the good deeds business, how about throwing a Tolman into the bargain? The slums are east of here. Used to house the unwashed of the Empire a couple centuries back. Now it's home to the walking ulcers and sores of this poor city. Good luck to ya.
Matamor Patur thanks you, Exile, for returning our Clarissa to us. She is the gentle heart of this place, a spirit still capable of love in this wasteland of hatred. Yet that gentle heart remains in jeopardy. Tolman isn't deserving of Clarissa, but she'll not smile until he's by her side. Dominus and his Ebony Legion arrived some time ago. Now the blackguards scour Sarn like hungry maggots on a carcass. What are they looking for? Only that which is best left unfound. Be well.
Hello. You're alone.
Bye.
Come no closer, witch. The name's Grigor, and, as you can see, I've had my fill of your kind. So once you've finished admiring your sisterhood's handiwork, turn those icy orbs of yours eastward. Yes, you've brought Clarissa home to us, and once again she pesters me with pity. There's only so much broth, so many bouquets that a man can take. For a criminal, Clarissa has a strangely soft center. Still, I'd rather not see that heart of hers hardened. Use those dubious talents of yours for something worthwhile. Find her boymate, Tolman. Prove me wrong about your kind. Death came to town. The roaring Ezomites wore red. The red of blood, the red of the fray. Death came to town. The crying Ezomites wore black. The black of disease, the black of dismay. Death came to town. The silent Ezomites wore gray. The gray of twilight, the gray of decay. Only the Isles of Scoth were spared. Once a backwater of my proud civilization, now all that remains of the Ezomites. Tread carefully, Exile. Humanity has one redeeming trait. We learn from our mistakes. You certainly gave us a scare for a bit there, but the damage doesn't seem to have been lasting. Thank you for doing the right thing. Fare you well.
You have made peace with our land. For now, my spear is lowered. Travel far.
I knew this strangeness would pass. Silk does not run from such things. I stand, I guard, when others shiver and shake.
Thank you for returning our reality to us. I think we've all had a glimpse of what could happen if piety tries to harness the power of the Vaal for her own ends. Go with...
I am not surprised. I saw you, in my slumber, drive the darkness away. I am sorry that I did not tell you before. What I see is only what might happen. And I did not want to fill you with more confidence than would have been good for you. Go with the spirit.
need fear. Destiny is seen to that.
The Monkey King has built his throne on your back. A throne of gold and gem, polished with blood and tear. Throw off the Monkey King and his shining privy before your back is broken.
Build something like this, you make persecution a way of life.
if Rayclast has been good to you, witch.
Tolman's dead then. Another victim of Piety's cruelty. Perhaps he escaped lightly. Look upon Grigor to see what life entails under Piety's influence. Let me offer you something. In recognition of all that you have done for us. We shall mourn Tolman's death as we shall treasure Clarissa's life. General Gravisius demands absolute obedience from his blackguards, meaning he's surrounded himself with cowards and lackwits, unable to lift a finger without orders. If you're able, traverse the river and murder Gravisius in his own barracks. You'll be ripping the very mind from the skulls of our enemies. Clarissa will weep for Tolman. She must. The cloud is darkest before the rain. It's an often told story among the Karui, how Vol of Thebris bent his knee to my ancestor, King Kalm, and promised freedom in return for war. While Vol raised his Purity Rebellion in the heart of the Empire, Kalm took Lord Lion Eye's head and the southern coast all the way to Siren's Cove. It was the greatest conquest the Karui have ever seen. If I knew how to cross the river safely, I'd be wearing Gravisius' head on my belt. Talakoda, go with courage.
I'll miss a boy. He was always up for a laugh, whether it was at his expense or not. But I would have missed that Clarissa more. Argan's the name, by the way. And it's my honour to welcome you to Dirty Old Sun, the metropolis of opportunity. The opportunity to make something of yourself, or the opportunity to have a very messy death. I was Clarissa's guardian angel back in Oriath. Put food on the table in return for a bit of light work. I try to keep her out of trouble as best I can here, but Sun's full of secrets, and Clarissa's full of curiosity. She's just so ample, is our Marimore. In my mind, you'll find no saucier specimen of womanhood. It's the tattoos and that fancy talk she does. Intoxicating. She's a cool one, though. Gravisius is the mailed and bloodied right hand of Dominus, and I thought the Templar were meant to be spiritual men of deepest humanity. You notice the sarcasm in my tone, right? Had to smuggle a fellow out of Theopolis once. Got a bit too friendly with Gravicius's wife, he did. Every blackguard was out on the streets looking for him. So I had to think lateral like. We took to the drains and didn't put our heads above the pavement until we sniffed the sea. A grubby bloody job it was, but worth it for the coin he paid. Trust me, the sewers is the only way you'll sneak up on old General Iron Ass, and you'll need a key to get in there. Have a chat to Clarissa about that. I'm no history scholar, but I know that Emperor Chittus was overthrown by Vol of Thebris in the so-called Purity Rebellion. But Vol had the shortest reign of any internal emperor. The Cataclysm sort of that. Stay out of the shadows. They bite.
Tolman. I made this bracelet for him when he first arrived here. Idiot said he'd never take it off. I called him a liar. He didn't, though. Not once. I need to give you something. I asked a lot of you out there in the slums. More than I should have. You tried. And that's all we exiles can ever hope to do. Those keys unlock the gates to the sewers. Tolman found them. Figure that in the worst of times, people will hide their wealth in the worst of places. We were never game to test his theory. Not with the Undying down there. But you're strong. Stronger than any of us here. I don't think you need to fear the dark. Sorry, I need some more time to think. We'll talk soon, I promise. Watch yourself.
Listen carefully, witch. Thanks to your sister in art, Piety, I no longer dream when I sleep. I only have nightmares. The same nightmare over and over. The mirror. It's never my reflection looking back. The first time that mirror appeared to me, it was Cole I saw. The rapist from Oriath I had the displeasure of sharing a pen with in Gravicius' stockade. Piety took him for her experiments, and that night I saw her handiwork while I slept. This time it was Tolman. Flesh dried to leather, organs shrunk to husks, blood trickling through his skeleton like red dust in an hourglass. It's Piety's gift to me, that mirror. At least I won't be seeing Clarissa the next time I look into it. And for that alone, I hope it's not you I see either. I walked halfway across this forsaken continent because of an ode. Of jewels and eternity, it's called. For twinkled promises of jewels and eternity, the Gemling Queen gave her heart and body to the King of Shades for one more day in the sun. The last day in the sun. That's but a portion of the full epic. The Gemling Queen lived, and she's the enigma behind the fall of the Ezomites and the Eternals both. Look to the Solaris Temple to the northeast. Find the Gemling Queen's remains before Piety does, and destroy them. Maramoa's sure of herself. And that kind of surety gets you killed in Sarn. You and all those around you. Hagen's got the right idea. Don't believe in anything that you can't trade or eat. I wouldn't rely on Hagen in a fight, and I wouldn't put too much faith in what he says. But he has one highly useful asset. His obsession with self-preservation. If Hagen deems you of use in keeping his fat self alive, he'll do almost anything for you. I tried to penetrate the Solaris temple in the northeast. Almost got myself killed by the bloody ribbons that guard the place. Bizarre, floating tapestries they are. Creatures of cloth and thaumaturgy. Fortunately, a few legionnaires got in the way. While the ribbons eviscerated them, I ran straight into Gravisius. He dragged me over the bridge to the Lunaris temple in the west and put me in Piety's tender care. Didn't say a single word to me the whole time. I was nothing but a spoil of war to him. Tread carefully, Exile.
Need some help? Be careful.
Yes. Hagen is a man of many claims, and those claims seldom dance harmoniously together. A lie is a death sentence in Namakanui, so I was raised a daughter of truth. Hagen is a son of self-interest. He's no warrior, nor spirit singer. He's a Korangi. I don't know the right word in Oriathan, but in Karui it means he who wins wars with false promises. Grigor straddles two worlds. One foot planted on this soil, one in the dirt of spirit and shadow. When you speak with him, be sure to know from which world his words arise. Talakora, go with courage.
Victario was a poet what ended up leading a rebellion, right under the nose of Emperor Chittis. But here's what really interests me. Our wordsmith was quite the talented larcenist as well. Pulled off the heist of the century, in the name of the people, of course. 3 finely crafted platinum busts, commissioned by Chittis for his favourite trio of generals. Victario and his coppers hold up in the sewers. Now that you have Clarissa's keys, perhaps you'd be inclined to search out those heroic busts for me. I'm sure I can make it well worth your while. I can't imagine what that poor bastard's been through. It's a miracle Grigor hasn't completely lost his mind. Granted, he's lost 1 or 2 pieces along the way, but there's still plenty that's worth listening to. Don't do anything I would.
blackguards will never stop pursuing someone they consider a traitor. I'm a danger to everyone around me and not long for this world if I can't find a place to hide. This seems like a good area to build a hideout, but it's filled with monsters. Can you clear it of everything dangerous? The blackguards will never stop pursuing someone they consider a traitor. I'm a danger to everyone around me and not long for this world if I can't find a place to hide. This seems like a good area to build a hideout, but it's filled with monsters. Can you clear it of everything dangerous? Till next time, shall we keep, Savior? With the death of the last monster here, the very air itself feels different. I wouldn't use the word purified, but you've definitely negated the pile over this place. I'll stay here for now and make sure nothing dangerous re-emerges. Keep your life to your own.
Beatles poet could hide the spoils from Chitters, but not from us, eh? I knew you was the Exile for the job. I'm sure you've been more than compensated already from Victario's stockpiles, but here's a little extra. Care of something I found under a dead man's bed. Why? Just because I like you. back something nice, eh?
This now in hope that someone will remain. Someone may remember. The sun is an orb of blood. Twisted twilight shrouds my eyes. The air reeks of anguish. San has plunged into nightmare. The man who served me coffee now writhes on the floor. He rants of visions he alone can see as writhing red tentacles grow from his face, as if his eyes had been seeds waiting to sprout. He is quiet now, my waiter. No more cackling and screaming. Dead. Of my fellow patrons, only 2 live. The others have fallen. Their blood is everywhere. The survivors, gemlings both, their skin shrivels and grays to the hue of necrosis. Their gems flare with unholy luster, their eyes black as hatred. A gemling ghoul, it twisted off a corpse's head, gnaws at skull-like dog. My head now, visions clawing at me. Thinking burns. I see horror. Envy the mute corpses at my feet. Words flay me. Flee me. All is madness.
You looking sharp?
There is nothing eternal in this empire of ours, but the names of our day that shall be revered or reviled in the centuries to come. The shadow whispers and simpers at the Monkey King's feet. When the Monkey King puts his back to the sun, it is the shadow that leads the way.
What's up?
The Monkey King names you slave. No. You are the gems of Rayclast, not the treacherous stones you dig and die for. It is time to bend the Monkey King's ear. Tell him your true name.
Stay out of the shadows. They bite.
There's a familiar face. Before you say anything, yes, I did try to kill you. Inexcusable. I allowed pragmatism to overcome honor in a moment of desperation. Please accept my deepest apologies. And what do you say? Can the two of us make a fresh start? Marvelous! Now, as you've clearly noticed, the All-Flame has given me another respite from oblivion. Alas, it's a partial success only. I am neither man nor spirit, living nor dead. A state that comes with some rather frustrating restrictions. I know we've only just been reacquainted, but to put no finer point on it, I need your help. Interested, are we? Oh, splendid! In return, I have a gift or two that I may bestow upon you with a click of my translucent fingers. All you need do is furnish me with a crystal decanter and a juicy piece of fruit. Two humble items that remain agonizingly out of reach for a man in my peculiar situation. Will you look at that? The decanter spiritus. As exquisite today as when I found it all those years ago. You may fault the man, but you can't fault his craftsmanship. I'm sure you've heard of Malachi by now. Ever the heterodox, he sought otherworldly inspiration by imbibing a substance called ghost wine. For the purpose, he created the decanter spiritus. I found it on my last visit here. Liquid placed in this crystal decanter becomes quasi-apparitional in nature. I'm sure you can glean the decanter's usefulness to me. Conventional liquids simply don't hit the spot. I am one sorely parched revenant. I hid the decanter spiritus in the marketplace so as not to cause temptation for the less morally steadfast in my crew. Look to the carven heraldry there and find a lion dancing upon the waves. Emperor Chitus was stabbed in the posterior by his own Lord Mayor on the eve of the Purity Rebellion. Chitus's grieving gemlings buried him in the imperial gardens, and a plum tree was planted upon his resting place, so that his mourners might taste of his glory for years to come. I found that tree, and one of my men tasted its fruit. I've never seen so much agony crammed into such a brief moment. This may seem a peculiar request, but please bring me one of Chitus's plums. This current form comes with rather frustrating restrictions. It's a small improvement on my last incarnation, but I'm a man who used to poke his sticky beak into the furthest corners of the world. Now I can barely cross the road. It was no mean feat getting here from Siren's Cove, I can tell you. So here's the truth of it. I intend to sup upon mine own death. Oh, fear not. The All-Flame will resurrect me, and with luck, will restore my full freedom. But for that to happen, I must die. And in such a manner as to excite the All-Flame to utmost ferocity. I am convinced that only the fruit of Chitus can provide the demise of sufficient tragedy. Life is full of painful choices, is it not? I visited Sarn some 30-odd years ago. Those ghasts, the Undying, you call them, scurried up from the sewers near the river and slaughtered all but a few of my most stalwart lads. Oh, they're a foul parody of humanity, those undying. Nothing in common with a fine, upstanding revenant like myself.
I'd love to see the insides of this spell. I can't abide housework.
What's going on?
You are not a cockroach. Strange. Inundated with cockroaches I am. Black ones, four limbs, nasty, spiky things. Are you spiky? If so, my ribbons will pluck your spines. Malachi liked spines. Liked my spine. Pretty spine. Bejeweled and bountiful. Enough to make an empire weep. Do you weep, not a cockroach? I do. Tears are infinite. Why, on this very day I found a new reason to cry. What is that you have? Not a cockroach? My ribbons spool. Those black ones wanted them, my ribbons. Wanted to wrap the city in black ribbons. Now they are my ribbons forevermore. Forevermore. I hate forever. I could tear happy ever after from bards' bleeding tongues. You're still here, not a cockroach. Oh, gratitude, yes. I should give you a token. Token? What token? This? Is this to your liking? The cockroaches will come again. They want the twist. That cockroach emperor. The other bugs shout his name. Revisius. Cross the river, squash the emperor cockroach in his nest. The bridge. It is barricaded. That spawns a tricky question. Questions. I asked too many questions. Chitters told me so. I asked where it all went. Our feculence. He made them show me. Under the river. The sewers from this side to that. Filthy, fetid tunnels like a rower's cloaca. A black place. Crawling with the undying. Once beautiful and arrogant gemlings. Now the foul waste of the Empire. Fitting, isn't it? Apt. I like you, not a cockroach. I like that you listen. It would annoy me if the Undying murdered you. Formetic sulfite. That's what you need. You have some already. You are a resourceful humbug now, aren't you? Give it to me. I was all eyes and ears when Malachi worked. I will make something of your formetic sulfite. I will forge an infernal talc that will bring the most furious of light to the undying darkness. A dash of arcanity, a pinch of insanity, a whisper of profanity, and the infernal talc is now ready. Explosive of powders. A sprinkle, the gentlest of dustings of infernal talc will provoke gems to a molten rage. For the undying, the very sun will rise within their flesh. They will burn for their sins, not a cockroach. They will burn. I loved Malachi. He gave me gems, divine jewels for his gemling queen. For his dead queen. But I didn't want me dead. Malachi begged. For him, for the Empire. I chose me. Selfish me. The Empire died, and I live. I live, and live, and live, and live. I was the Emperor's favorite for a time. But Chittis had many favorites. He filled the scepter of God with favorites. Every now and then, he cleared away the clutter. Those who pleased him, they were given to his lords and generals. Those who did not were given to his thaumaturgists. I talked too much, asked too many difficult questions. I was gifted to Malachi, my dear, troubled Malachi. Leave me, not a cockroach.
I awoke. Feverish and barely conscious, I set to drawing these maps through the sable hours. By morning, my fingers ached, my eyes burned, yet still I found no rest. The reverie commanded its rendering. The reverie device now stands completed. I've placed the first of my maps within its receptacle. I've taken my maiden voyage into nightmare. I know now that which sent me this precious gift. It knows me, expects my return. It would be foolish to disappoint. Malachi. Tear down the walls that imprison the mind. That is what the gems do. That is their true virtue. The moment my fingertips brushed the cool, silken plains of that first gem, I felt it. My skull ached, as if its contents were growing, pressing against the bone, searching for a way to break free. That night, once the wine had dulled the pain enough to allow the onset of sleep, the dreams began. I have not been without them since, nor would I be. Every spark of thaumaturgy that I wield, every device that I forge, every creature that I transfigure, I owe to these lessons cloaked in nightmare. From whence do these precepts hail? Certainly not the mundane grey between my ears. I possess only one reference that bears faith. Translated with unquestionable clarity by that idiot savant, Isius Pirandus, the beast. Duliani of the Val knew the truth. Soon now, so shall I. Malachi. Pretty as porcelain, but her mouth spins like the potter's wheel. That's how I once described Diala. Yet on this day, my lady is as ravishing as a nightmare, radiant as the fullest moon. Diala is my gemling queen, and we shall rule, side by side, over the world that will soon come to be.
Hello. Stay out of the shadows. They bite. Stay out of the shadows.
Watch yourself. Maramoa, I've heard that the Karui have this philosophy, Makanui, the way of the warrior. I don't think you could get any more Makanui than her. She took it upon herself to look after me before Tolman arrived. Saved my skin more than once. I'm fine with that. Beats being on her bad side. Hagen likes to think he was my kind old uncle back in Theopolis. Granted, the work he gave me saved my parents and I from starvation. This was after my father lost the family fortune at the card table, and we had to give up the manor in the country for a flea box in Theopolis. But he's not half as generous as he makes out. When Hagen gives you something, you can be damned sure that he's getting his pound of flesh in return. No one should have to go through what Grigor has. I help him as much as he'll let me, but he's a proud one, and so he should be. He's survived what has destroyed too many of us. Halfway across the world, and yet the tie between Vanir and I endures. That was Piety's real name back in Theopolis, before her rise to greatness. Vanir sold her thaumaturgy in the day, her body at night. Sought after, she was, enough so to become one of my best buyers. But money never meant much to Vanir. No, she was striving for something better, nobler. He used to tell me that life needn't be this hard. It's time you all realized that. I bet she fed Tolman the same bloody line. The blackguards talked about Piety's precious gems being infected with nightmare. Tolman, what did she do to you? Vanir was arrested for consorting with the unholy and condemned to the pyre. This was before the banishments. Dominus shared a last supper with her, heard her confession. Most think Vanir earned Dominus's patronage on her back. I don't. Vanir gave Dominus her better life and got a new name in return. You can count on one thing. Piety's grand future won't include the likes of you, me, or Tolman. You find a high enough spot and you can see the Lunaris temple over the river, at the western edge of the city. Since the blackguards arrived, the clouds above that temple have been stained with the blackest of smoke. You can see it sometimes when the westerly blows. It stinks worse than death. On the fall of the Empire, the historians are deathly silent. After the Purity Rebellion, the Kingdom of Kalm blockaded Oriath, preventing any trade or correspondence with the mainland. It's said that Kalm planned to invade. Only when the Karui retreated did Oriath get any news from Rayclast. But by that time, there wasn't really anyone left to tell the tale. I know. So strange that stone and metal should move and live as you and I. Still, I read that Chitis's sculptors used to soften their materials with thaumatic sulfite, a byproduct of gem refining. It's the only connection that I can fathom between the cataclysm and the living sculptures of Sarn. Chitis thought that the gemling was the pinnacle of human progress. These glorious gems have brought us within spitting distance of godhood, he once said. The High Templar at the time, Vol of Thebris, thought they were a perversion. He wanted the Empire made pure, cleansed of the stain of thaumaturgy. You look at Sarn and tell me which one you think was right. And while you're out there, look out for monkeys. No, not those bloody monkeys from Frisia. These ones are painted on the walls. I think you'll find them enlightening. See you.
The Gemling Queen? She's... impossible. How did she survive? Why is she not one of the Undying? No, these questions can wait. There's a more pressing one. Is she safe from the Ebony Legion? You've been busy. With the spool back where it belongs, the Riggans should be able to keep the Ebony Legion at bay. We've both seen what they can do to a man. Whether you were saving your own skin or thinking of others, it matters little to me. You succeeded where I did not. You have stood in the presence of the Gemling Queen. I can only hope to meet her in my nightmares. Piety's a genius, sculpting mere human clay into divine gemlings. At least, that's what she told me when she opened me up and buried a virtue gem in my entrails. Valakai did the same in the name of the Emperor centuries ago. Chittis's gemlings still rule San. We call them the Undying now. Tread carefully, Exile.
Talamoana, Exile. Citizens of the San that was. The Undying have been around for hundreds of years. Left to their own devices, they'll likely survive for hundreds more. Still, they're not immune to mortality's touch. They can be killed, with some difficulty. Traversing the sewers under the river. I should have thought of that myself. Yet, the more of a picture you paint of that undying concoction in the sewers, the less I want to see it. If you manage to destroy it, expect a storm of undeath to descend upon you. The dark is their home, and there'd be nowhere more homely to the Undying than a pitch-swathed drain under a river. There is nothing else.
You getting there?